Oh,
here we go.
great system. This free. This StreamYard, it's bro, isn't
it? It's good. Hello, Rovers fans. Ryan Hildred here from Rovers Chat. I hope you're doing as best you can do at this fine Wednesday evening after Rovers' disappointing 3-1 defeat away at Watford. And what a time for us to be doing our first live stream. I think the four of us had all these plans that we'd come on here and be jolly and happy and fill you all with some nice Rovers niceties before going to bed. But having seen what some of these lads have put in the private messages on the Rovers Chat message board, you're certainly not getting that. So let's see what we can discuss over the next half an hour or so. I'm delighted to be joined by Joe Harvey. Joe, how are you doing?
Ooh, been better.
Alex Lomax, how are you, mate?
I'm as good as I can be, Ryan, to be honest. I think I'll try and put a bit of a positive spin on it, a bit more of a positive spin than I did maybe in the messages.
Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's as good as I can do after Rovers have got beat.
Excellent. Yeah. And we have our own debutant tonight for Rovers Chat, our own Harvey Elliott. We have got Howard Abbott. How are you doing, Howard?
Good enough, I suppose. But yeah, I'm happy to be on. Yeah, very.
Excellent. Well, thank you, the three of you, for joining me here for this live stream. As I say, for all of you watching, just a few of the niceties, if I can. If you're not following Rovers Chat, please do give us a follow on Twitter. We are Rovers_chat on Twitter. And if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel where this is being broadcast, please give us a subscribe on that Rovers Chat channel. We've got loads of YouTube content coming out this season. And I should also do a plug for other things like what Joe does, the Rovers analytics side of things, and Andy's stats show. And Alex, you're involved with the 1875 podcast. We've got loads of stuff out there. So subscribe, give us a follow, and you will keep up to date with everything. And of course, if you've got some comments for us this evening on this live stream, please comment on this video. We'll pick up your questions as we're going. So please do ask us, and we will follow them as best we can and ask your questions live on the show. Okay, so I'm going to start, boys, just by getting your first initial reactions to that game. Just sum up your feelings. Where did it go wrong? You know, how are you feeling now? So, Howard, let's start with you as our debutant. You know, how are you feeling at this moment in time? Sum that one up.
Extremely disappointed, really. Feel we really gave it to them, to be fair, I'd say. I didn't think we put in a bad performance whatsoever. I think the result doesn't, I won't say it flatters them, because, I mean, they did score some great goals, to be fair, but I don't know. It's a lot of the things that I remember seeing from last season that's just annoying. I think the passing is obviously a lot better. It's a lot more fluid, which is probably a good thing. It's showing that the players are getting behind what the manager wants us to do. But you're looking at the defensive mistakes, the individual mistakes, the poor performances from the same players again. It's just disappointing, really. But performance-wise, I suppose, I don't know. I think we could take a lot of positives still, because there was Holtby today, Harvey Elliott on his debut, Ben Brereton. They did put in some decent performances, had some good moments in the game, but no, on the whole, it's just extremely disappointing.
Yeah, I must say I've got very odd feelings after that game. You know, I'm trying to be positive, as you guys have seen in the chat. And, you know, I think at times we've played really well. But, yeah, we're on the end of a 3-1 defeat. And, you know, this is a side that's going to be right up there come the end of the season. So, yeah, a bit mixed I am. Joe, if I come to you, you know, sum up your feelings on the game. Where do you think it went wrong?
I don't know if gone wrong's the right word, really. Me, as you mentioned at the beginning, me and Andy do the stats show, obviously. So we try and look at things from a more tactical point of view. Obviously, we knew a lot about Watford and we knew a lot about Sarr. I mean, I don't know an exact figure on it yet, but we'll try and get a clearer picture. But I would estimate over 90% of their attacks came down their right wing. and down our left. I don't know if that's because Sarr's so good or whether that's because Bell was weak, or whether they thought he would be. I was unimpressed with Bell tonight, having been a little bit more impressed recently. And I'm not putting the whole responsibility onto him. That's not where we went wrong entirely. I think in general, I think the fullbacks were too high. I think we got exposed down the flanks really way too often. Nyambe was often past Elliott up the pitch. So, yeah, we went wrong in a few areas. Johnson and Evans, again, glided through that game, in my opinion. Just way too lethargic and just going through the motions. I thought Tribal kind of changed things a little bit when he came on. But, yeah, definitely the fullbacks too high, left us exposed today. That's where I see it went wrong.
Sure. And Alex, where are you at with this one? Do you think we deserve to lose? How are you feeling?
Well, we definitely didn't deserve to lose the game, but I think as Rovers fans, we've become all too accustomed to saying that over the past so many seasons. I think, if anything, after this game, it kind of reminded me of Gary Bowyer in a way, and it reminded me of some of the games under him where, there was a lot of good play, there's a lot of good passing, but when the key moments of the game arrived, whether it be the free header for Lenihan that we didn't put away, whether it be just the careless passing around our own box for the goals we conceded, I would echo what the two guys before me have said. I agree with everything they've said. Another thing I'd add to that was I just couldn't believe how high up Kaminski was playing. I mean, at times I thought a third centre half had put the wrong colour kit on and was playing between our centre halves. I thought, we've got 12 players. I don't know, what's going on. So that shocked me in a way, and I think that caught him out for the second goal. I think he was almost so high up the pitch he couldn't prepare himself to make a save. So that's obviously something that is a concern and I think needs to be looked at going forward. But as I say, a lot of good passing, a lot of good play, but in those really killer moments of the match, we obviously came up short, and that's why we've lost the game.
I must admit, I was waiting for Kaminski to get lobbed from the halfway line at some point. I was just waiting for Cleverley or someone just to ping one like that. And yeah, that second goal, he just seemed unbalanced, didn't he? He didn't seem to react for about 5 seconds that they'd got into the box, and then it was just too little too late, and the save ultimately, fell to Cleverley to head that ball in. So, yeah, a shame. Just before we move on, we've got one comment here from Warren Selby, just giving a view here about the game. Bell and Evans clearly not good enough. I reckon Joe Rankin-Costello is a better and more creative right back to really missing Rothwell. Yeah, we missed Rothwell, I think we've missed for the last couple of games, haven't we? I certainly agree with that. Joe, any comments in relation to what Warren said there?
Yeah, I think in relation to Corey Evans, I mean, how long's he been here now? Was it 2015 or 14 maybe?
Could be before, actually.
It might have been even earlier than that, yeah.
I think he's our longest serving player now, and I think sometimes it shows in terms of he's a very back-to-basics central midfielder that wouldn't look out of place in League One, not just because of his ability, but because of the type of football that his play style suits. He would suit the 4-2-3-1 that we used to play in a double pivot with Bradley Johnson. He does not work in that midfield three, Corey Evans. He's never played in a three, and there's a reason for it. So, yes, there's an aspect of him not being good enough, but I also just don't think he suits it at all. Bell, I have my own frustrations with him, and I'm glad Douglas is in to provide some competition. I think somebody put a comment which was he got nutmegged more times than he played a pass forward tonight, which is quite embarrassing. But I'm still feeling that Ismail Assar is one of the best wings in the division. So maybe anybody would have struggled tonight against a winger so competent. But yeah, I can understand all the comments there from Warren, and I'm a big fan of Joe Rankin-Costello, so I can completely understand that one as well.
Definitely. Well, let's try and get some positivity into the conversation. We've started not very well there, have we? So let's talk about Harvey Elliott. All eyes on the team sheet before the game. He started the match and he played 90 minutes. So Howard, let's start with you. How do you think Harvey Elliott played?
I was very excited by what I saw, to be honest. I think especially in the first half. I thought in the second half he kind of drifted out the game quite a lot. So he didn't. I didn't feel he got involved as much as he did in the first half. But from what we saw, some of the over the top balls, he did one. Like, I think it might have been his very first touch. We just did this like first time pass right over to Brereton. It was really well defended, but it was something I just couldn't imagine anyone else in our team doing, to be honest. And I don't know. I just think he looks. Exciting is the word I'd definitely describe him as, but I was still very surprised that he started today, I must admit. I thought maybe Dolan would have started again, even though he wasn't very effective in the last 2 games. But he looks like a signing that can definitely take us to another level, but we need to make sure we take the chances because it's just pointless otherwise, really, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is. And Alex, how do you think Harvey Elliott played? What type of game do you think he had?
I think the biggest compliment I can give Elliott is that he didn't look like a 17-year-old, and he didn't look like his first training session was 48 hours ago. So I think that is as big a compliment as you can pay a player. I agree with Howard that some of the balls over the top were incredibly precise. I think Armstrong had one in the second half where he, dinked Foster and he just got a fingertip to it and it hit the bar and went over. So I think my early impression of Elliott's performance was that he looks more of a creator than a goal scorer. He didn't really get in the box an awful lot. But obviously, each player has their own game. But he looks more of a creative sort of winger rather than like a Dak that gets in the box and scores those tap-ins and scores those goals inside the box from loose balls. So I would definitely say it's a promising debut, and I'm looking forward to see how he does as he gets more time in the team and he gets more familiar with his teammates. But yeah, I have nothing bad to say about his performance, really.
Great. And Rovers fans watching, give us your comments about Harvey Elliott. How do you think he played? Joe, where are you on Harvey Elliott's performance tonight?
See, I said I watched the game with my mum at home tonight, as I've done throughout COVID.
Good lad. Good lad.
And can't watch it with my girlfriend like normal. So I said to her after the second half that Elliott reminded me of Ruben Rashina way back when, in that he was almost too good. He was on another wavelength tonight. I think Holtby just about kept up with him. Some good passages of play with him, but I thought everything Harvey was doing, everyone else was like, oh, right, okay. And that'll come, I think, with training and a little bit more cohesion and chemistry with the rest of the team. But I think he was, a little bit further ahead. He looked a Premier League player. He would have fitted into Watford's team quite well. His touch was Premier League class. His passing was Premier League class as well. So, yeah, definitely positive. And I think it's a case of perhaps trying to build things around him a little bit more and focusing the play down that side. And that'll come in time. And whether that comes in time for Saturday, probably not. And whether he's fit enough to start again on Saturday, I don't know. But yeah, impressed with him tonight. Yeah.
I must say that, as Alex has touched on, for a 17-year-old and on his debut in the Championship away from home in a side like ours that can struggle away from home, I think he did really well. And I think, my reflection, Dolan has looked a really raw talent this season, whereas Elliott just seems a bit more polished, a bit more, you can tell he's been in Liverpool's training ground, can't you? Just a bit more of a polished player in that sense. El Scotty 2706, one of the positives for sure in relation to Harvey Elliott. Yeah, so I think there's universal agreement there that it looked a good performance. And Warren, Selby, Harvey Elliott got a lovely touch, got a good footballing brain. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, training with Jurgen Klopp, that's only going to, enhance you on a daily basis, isn't it? And Hunter's Army, Elliott looking promising, but would love to see Douglas now instead of Bell. Bought for the same price as Dak frightens me. Yeah. So we've mentioned fullback areas again, so let's move on to that. First half in particular, Joe's touched on it in terms of the percentage of chances that came down Watford's right-hand side. Ismail Assar has had a field day in that first half. Both sides, let's not just single out Amari Bell. Alex, if I start with you, what's your thoughts about fullback areas for Rovers at the moment and indeed tonight's game?
Well, I think Joe made an interesting point before about in our private deliberations about how much demand is placed on the fullbacks in this new system that Marlborough's playing. Because I think the front three tend to get quite narrow. They tend to sort of all want to play on the inside. It puts a lot of demand on the fullbacks pushing really high up and providing that width. And I think at times today it showed that against some of the better sides in this league, we could get exposed at times. I don't necessarily agree with one of the previous comments about ranking Costello. I feel like Nyambe as a defender is far better. And I feel like if you're going to have... I don't really think it would work to have that two ultra attacking fullbacks on both sides. I just think it's hard enough to defend one side of the pitch, as you commit so many bodies forward. So I think Amari Bell had a tough game tonight. But I think also Brereton had a tough game protecting him. I think for the first goal, Bell missed the header and Brereton didn't track his runner. So there's two players at fault there, not just Bell. But equally, I think you have got to take into account we were playing against a winger today that was tipped to go for £40 million in the summer window. So, Amari Bell, we signed from Fleetwood for 500,000. So there is a bit of context to be applied to that. But I think going forward, Mowbray needs to find the formula for how we don't concede those chances so easily after being on top. It seems like we have to work incredibly hard for our chances. We have to put so many passing moves together to carve open a defence, but it seems like going in the other direction, it's like one slip, one misplaced pass, and the opposition are in on goals. So that needs to be looked at for sure.
Yeah, and I think that first goal for Watford, what you just said there, Alex, was kind of in first 10 minutes, didn't we? And Lenihan had the chance with the header, and then it's like bang, Watford scored. So yeah, I can relate to that. Howard, before I come to you, I'm reliably informed that Andy Fisher is in the the chat. So if you are there, best of luck at MK Dons. I'm sure every single Rovers fan wishes you well at MK Dons. So if you are there, best of luck. So Howard, moving on to you then, the fullback areas, or if you want to draw out Ismail Assar, if you want to, how do you feel it went in those wide areas tonight?
I don't know if I kind of feel like how high the fullbacks were kind of just meant that we caused our own problems, because when you're giving a player of Ismail Assar's quality that much space, especially on the left hand side, you're almost asking him to do what he did, and I just feel it was a bit naive a little bit. I feel like we should have probably dealt with that a lot better. And I don't think it's unfair to say that Amari Bell's the weak link in this team. He had some decent games this season, I must admit, but just no. Barry Douglas has to go in on Saturday, in my opinion, even if he's not fit. I just don't think he's good enough. And
yeah,
I think it showed today. He was stray passes. He looked almost lost. Like he didn't. There was times where he was. I think it was more when Dolan came on. I don't know if he was leggy. I couldn't understand if he was leggy, but he looked like he just didn't know what to do. And I kind of get that a lot with him. Like he just gets the ball, takes a few touches, looks like he could run on, then just stops and then wonders what to do. Like, I don't know whether it's a confidence thing, whether he just doesn't believe in himself. I don't know. I'm sure he does, but or whether he's been told not to. But then that contradicts the fact that he's playing a high. But I don't know. I think he 100% has to get dropped next game. No doubt in my mind. Nyambe, you can't kind of get being high for, because no one's stopping him really, is there? He's like a brute on that right side, isn't he? Even who's a left back, the Sema was his name. He was like a big strong guy, but even struggled himself. And so you can understand, and especially with the link up as well with Harvey Elliott, it was brilliant at times, to be fair. So yeah, I feel like if we'd have maybe put one further forward and the other not, so maybe it kind of drifted into a free, because I just don't see the point in Bell going forward, really. I just don't think he offers anything.
Yeah. And Joe, Howard's just touched on it there, just on the other side of the pitch. What did you think of the promise shown by Harvey Elliott and Ryan Nyambe tonight as a two down that right hand side?
Yeah, I still wish Ryan would cross the ball a bit more often. Very often just lays it off to someone else, because we've seen he can do it. Not every time, but he can get that cross in. So I'd like to see him go for that a bit more, to offer a bit more variety. I love a winger on a side cutting in on the stronger foot. Joe Lolly at Nottingham Forest, the best example in the division. Adam Armstrong, when he used to play off the left, cutting in on his right. So it's great to have a left footer on that side to offer something a bit different, really. It kind of leaves Dolan in the dark, which is worrying, because I really don't think Dolan works off the left. His best attribute is getting round a man and getting a ball in, which he can't do off the left side. So it might mean Dolan has to, revert down to the Harry Chapman super sub position for now. But that's not the end of the world. He's young, he's much more raw, and that's fine. But yeah, impressed with Elliott, and hopefully if Nyambe can grow in his confidence to get that ball in the box, we'll have multiple options down that side.
Sure. So I'm just going to change tack slightly and pick out a comment from one of our own, Jonathan Secker. Should have been a red card in the first half for the Watford defender. Alex, is that a view that you share?
On the red button, we don't have the luxury of replay, so my initial thoughts were that Armstrong was through on goal and it was a clear goal scoring opportunity. I don't see how from that position the other Watford defenders could have covered, and it seems to me like we may have been on the end of one there in terms of a bad decision. I don't think you can maybe blame the loss of the game on that. I think we still had plenty of chances to win the game and to do better within the game. So I don't sit here as a big gripe about, that's the reason why we didn't do this or that. And I don't think the Rovers players seemed to complain that much. There was a bit of protest, but it didn't seem like a glaring error from looking at the players on the pitch, which was an interesting one. But if it is the case that it did look like the last man to me, then it's probably just follows a pattern of maybe Rovers not getting the decisions, as particularly away from home when we're playing a team that's just been relegated and at their own ground. I do have the sense that if that was Saw at Ewood going through on goal, a Rovers player may have got a red card for that offence, but it's gone now. And I think we didn't control what we could control within the game. You can't control a referee's decisions. You've got to control your own aspects of the game, so taking your chances and making sure that your passing is accurate around your own box and that kind of thing. And I think the reason we lost the game was because we didn't take care of that.
Yeah. Joe, before I come back to you, we've got a few comments. So Hunter's Army, if he gets sent off, we beat them. So yeah, it could be a totally different game against 10 men for, the majority of that game. So it's one of them that could have swung either way. And Warren Selby, if he's last man, he's got to go. So Joe, where do you stand? Did you think it was a red card?
Yeah, but I disagree that we'd have won the game. We saw against Cardiff, you win 10 men, it's even harder than before. Teams sit men back against us, and Watford did that tonight. And any team that plays us will continue to do so until we can learn to break down a defence. They got their goals, however lucky they were. They escaped the red, however lucky that was, and then they defended it, and they defended it quite well. It took a great goal from Brereton, which I'm sure we'll touch on. And then we didn't look like, some good saves, really, and a penalty save, but, that's what teams are going to do if we struggle to score goals. So, yeah, I think the red card would have made it even more difficult, actually. It probably would have finished 2-0 or 2-1. So, yeah, I thought the referee had control all game, though, in general. It's not the red card that bothered me. It was the constant time wasting, 23 free kicks and 2 yellow cards. No control all game. No control. I thought the Watford players managed that game themselves. They stood in front of the player of the ball at every single free kick, not a single yellow card for that. Apparently, didn't catch it because I kind of ran off because I'd seen a tweet that said it full time, so I knew it had finished. I was a bit behind on my shooting, but apparently there was a red card thing at the end, maybe, I don't know, where he kind of just blew for full time instead of giving a second yellow or whatever. But yeah, the ref had no control, but I really disagree that we'd have won the game. I really don't think we would have done.
Yeah. And El Scotty 2706, they will have sat back even more if he would have got a man sent off. So that was my fear before the game, that Watford have... I was quite surprised, actually, that they got the points they did with only 3 goals and those 1-0 wins. So clearly, Vladimir Ivic has set them up to play that way. So I think, yeah, Scotty, that's a fair comment. So Howard, one of the reasons we didn't win the game is the battle between Adam Armstrong and Ben Foster. Joe and Alex have both referenced it as well. A penalty save, 2 good saves from Adam Armstrong and one from Darragh Lenihan as well. So Ben Foster really showing that possibly still good enough for England if he wasn't in retirement. But I think he's made his thing there now. How good was Foster tonight, and how much did that result in Rovers obviously not scoring more than 1 goal?
Well, he was outstanding today, Foster. He's clearly too good for this league. I think that goes without saying. He's been good enough for England for years now, but I don't know whether he just never gets picked because of the teams he plays for. He usually plays for West Brom. He's a bit unfashionable, aren't they? So whether it has anything to do with that, I don't know. But Ben Foster having a good game isn't a good enough excuse for me. We still need to be... The one-on-one that Armstrong had where he went for the chip, that's not Ben Foster having a good game. That's just Armstrong not scoring a chance he should score. And as obviously the penalty goes, you have to score penalties, don't you? That goes without saying. But Armstrong should have 100% scored today. I think he's another one that probably had quite a poor game, but has kind of gone on the down low a bit because it's Adam Armstrong and we sort of let him off a little bit. But because there was a few chances he had, like there was one where he was about 10, 12 yards out or so, and he was kind of like diagonal onto the goal. He took a shot. He should be hitting the target, but he took a shot and he just flew straight over them. He got no control over the shot whatsoever. So I think he's certainly very lucky to avoid criticism today. But I suppose we can't criticise him because he's still got 5 goals in 6 games. So he's still probably our best player. So I suppose you let them off just off that, don't you?
Yeah, and I must say the one where he got through on goal, I think he thought he was offside. It seemed like it was a semi-half. It seemed like he didn't really go for it in his usual kind of conviction. It was kind of like a half-assed lob over the keeper, and I'm pretty certain he wouldn't have gone for that lob had he thought he was onside, actually, because I'm more used to him rolling it down. Sorry, Joe.
It wouldn't have been a shocker if he was offside because he's never not on offside. He's always offside. Yeah. I think I would say it's averaging out at 4 a game now. And it's my biggest criticism of him. He's always offside. The one time that Bell did play a really nice ball forward, he was offside. And every single time he gets that ball in behind, I'm looking over at that linesman, and 9 times out of 10, he's offside. It's frustrating. He's one of the fastest players in the league. You've got, I think, the FIFA commentary line, isn't there? Oh, he doesn't need to go so early there. But it's true. He really doesn't need to go so early. He's got the pace, and he's always offside. It's really frustrating. Massive one for me, that.
Yeah. Alex, so the penalty, poor penalty or good save? Where do you stand?
A bit of both. I think it was a well-struck penalty. It didn't seem a tame penalty to me, and it didn't seem to be in the middle of the goal. One thing I would say is that I thought Foster jumped about 2 feet off his line as Armstrong was running up to take it. And I think if we had VAR for all its sins in the Championship, I think that would have been taken again. But I think you've got to view the penalty save in the broader context of the match, and it was one of several missed chances. And I almost, when I saw the notification come through about the penalty, it really didn't surprise me that it was missed. Just the tone of the game and the tone of the evening. I thought it was destined to be missed. And I looking at the run up and the actual strike of the penalty, it didn't seem like a particularly bad penalty to me. You see some penalties some weeks and you think, God, that's an awful penalty. It's barely off the ground and it's almost in the middle of the goal. But it didn't really have that look about it. I just think we met a good goalkeeper on the wrong night.
Yeah. We've had a few comments about the defence, so I'm just going to take us back to that. So first and foremost, Tony Mowbray has said on Daniel Ayala's injury, the initial assessment looks like a groin. We'll have to find the severity of it. So that's going along the bottom of the screen there now. And we've had a few comments in the chat. If again, I just bring them up. So Gary H, I worry about the defence. Williams needs to come back in. Worried about Lenihan and Ayala, as prefer a right-footed defender in those positions. And we picked this up in the private chat, didn't we, Joe? I think, was it you that last week said, were Lenihan and Ayala the other side round against Nottingham Forest, and it was Ayala that found himself left side tonight? Did that show with those goals down the left-hand side?
Yeah, I mean, when Ayala first signed, when we did the stats show on this, I think he'd played 2 games as a left centre-back in his entire career. So it's really tough, isn't it? I mean, Andy and I disagree on it massively. He loves the right-footed left centre-half. He thinks it's great. I disagree. I think you need a left-footed left centre-back. And there's a comment in there, I can't remember who's put it now, it might be a bit further up, but, is it a coincidence that we started shipping goals now Williams isn't playing? And I don't know who's put that. Somebody's mentioned it. I think it was El Gotti.
Yes, Scotty.
I agree completely. I think same as 2019-20, Williams has shown himself to be competent, and then he ends up out of the side for whatever reason, whether that's he's dropped or he's injured or COVID-19, and then we start conceding some goals. So I do think that he'll be a welcome return, even though it's forced. But to be honest, I probably would have brought him in anyway. I think Ayala got caught out big time today, and he didn't work alongside Bell. 2 players, massive one-footed on one side of the pitch, not helpful.
Yeah. And Hunter's Army has commented, I like Ayala, but there is something about the Dara and Dell partnership which is very calming. So Howard, given the choice, who would be your back to, your 2 centre-backs?
It's a good question, to be fair. I would probably go Lenihan Williams, I agree with the left-footed, left centre-half thing, but that's never something that I particularly notice until someone mentions it. I just something I just never pick up on. But it's kind of just that comfort in it of knowing that it was kind of the same with Mulgrew. But Mulgrew, when we got promoted, he just wasn't very up to speed. But because he was left-footed on that left-hand side, it filled you with confidence when he were on the ball. And he said he almost wasn't predictable what he did, if you know what I'm trying to say. But I would definitely go with Derek Williams. I don't think Derek Williams would deserve to get dropped based on how he started. I'd say the first 3 games I thought he played quite well. Maybe I don't know. I can't really remember Bournemouth, to be honest, but he was definitely good in the 2 wins. And I feel like it would be harsh on him to be dropped. Yeah, but whether that's our best centre-half partnership, I'm a little bit unsure, because Ayala has that proven quality about him that we've not really had a centre-half like Ayala for quite a while, where you know what you're getting with him, the experience, the been there, done that type thing that we don't have with anyone else, that we haven't had for anyone else for quite a while, really. And I kind of like that in the centre-half. I feel like you need them centre-halves to be where you want to be in this league, which for us is, I suppose, top 6. So, I'd probably edge Williams and Lenihan, but long term, I'll go Ayala Lenihan, definitely.
And Warren Selby, really fair point, Warren. Williams and Lenihan both playing for Republic of Ireland as well as Rovers. So, that's a good sign. Before I move on from the defence, and I just want to focus again on some other things. Master Uguay, Lenihan is still our best defender and one of our best players. Unlucky with the own goal, deserves more support at the back. Alex, the own goal, it did seem a little bit unlucky on Lenihan, but classic Rovers in terms of the timing of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was must have been a really inspiring halftime team talk by Mowbray. I just put that one in for you, Ryan, as a bit of a jab. But But no, I think it was unlucky. I think it was a ball whipped in at pace, and I think one thing I think we can all reflect on is that when do Rovers ever whip balls in like that at real pace and give a defender something to think about? You know, that split, that 50-50 decision in the player's brain. You know, do they swing the leg at it or not? And you just sometimes have to force defenders into making bad mistakes in order to get that bit of luck that gets you a one-up in games. And like you say, the timing of it was just awful, really. I mean, I thought going in at half-time, I was very impressed with the performance, and I thought we sort of got a goal out of nothing from Brereton because it was such a long-range strike, so unexpected, that we almost felt like we had a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card at half-time, and then to concede that goal almost straight away was a bit of a killer. And I think when that went in, I think I can speak for most Rovers fans when I said I couldn't really see us getting anything from the game because of just the pattern of the game and the way they were sat back in their own half. It just didn't seem realistic that we could break them down and score 2 goals. So I think going forward, things to learn are let's try and give the defenders of other teams decisions like that to make, and maybe we will get a couple of those slices of luck over the season if we do that.
And Mark Newton, 1985, just on what you've said there, Alex, Rovers will come good. Teams need time to settle with the new players. So Tom Tribal obviously came on. You know, what did Tom Tribal look like to you, Joe?
Yeah, I liked him actually. When we did it, we did a transfer show for Rovers Chat's YouTube channel with Jacob of Lanks Live, and we kind of rated the transfer window, and all of us were probably the most pessimistic about Tribal out of all of the deadline day signings. But actually, I was really impressed. A far improvement on what Corey Evans and Bradley Johnson offered in the match. Got his foot on the ball, turned. There was a lovely crossfield ball to Nyambe pretty early on. He just seemed nice and composed. Again, he looked a Premier League footballer. Wouldn't look out of place in Bournemouth's team or in Watford's team. So, yeah, definitely think he's got to start if he's fit. Because there was a question, I think, which was, what's your ideal midfield 3 if we're playing a 4-3-3 system? And I think even in the cameo he got today, he showed he's got to be in there. Fellow German, Lewis Holtby, they can work together quite well. So, yeah, big fan.
Yeah. And Howard, how do you think Tribal looked?
Yeah, basically ditto what Joe said. I think he looks. I remember the pass he did to Nyambe, where it was very low, but it was so precise, so quick. It was very. It was. I won't say it was very impressive because he was only on for 10-15 minutes, but you saw glimpses of what Mowbray would have seen and what Mowbray knows that we need in that midfield, because, like you said, Evans and Johnson weren't particularly great today. I thought Bradley Johnson I had worries about Bradley Johnson going into this season because last season he had too many times where he'd be good for 2 games, then bad for 3. And I was worried about after this international break whether he'd continue playing to the level that he did in September or go back into that rut of putting in average to below average performances like he did last season. So far, he gave away the ball against Nottingham Forest, and today I didn't think he was particularly good as well. He gave the ball away far too often, and I wouldn't drop him. I don't think he deserves to get dropped as of yet, but I think in that midfield, especially with Evans, he just wasn't very good. I don't know if it's helped by Rothwell. Maybe Rothwell might find a good balance between the 3. Because Rothwell has the drive that the other 2 don't have. But, I think not the greatest performance of Bradley Johnson, but I hope he comes good. But I kind of struggle to see it, to be honest. I see the same similarities I did last season.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just chuckling there at Hunter's Army's comment that he's just put in, which we'll see from the moderators will allow that one through. But Alex, I'm going to come on to you just for the other substitution that came on, actually. The first look at Scott Wharton this season. Granted, he didn't get too many minutes. How do you think he looked?
He looked fine. It wasn't a major concern about Scott Wharton coming on. I think if he has any aspirations of making it at Rovers, then this season needs to be it. He needs to stake a claim over the next 18 months because he's getting to an age where, you need to be showing your full potential now. He's had 3 promotions from League Two, so he's got a lot of experience in winning teams. So that doesn't concern me at all. But I thought in some ways we weren't really put under the cosh by Watford at any point during the game. It wasn't like we had our backs to the wall defending, so I don't think we can form a full impression of him. But by the sounds of it, Williams, after being cooped up in a hotel room for 10 days in Ireland, will be back for Saturday. So I can't really see Scott Wharton being involved on Saturday's game. I think that would be quite unlikely, but I have no real concerns from what I saw in the limited minutes he had.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move us on to something that we definitely need to talk about after 2 years of persisting with this guy. We need to give him his name in lights. Ben Brereton has scored a volley, and it was a very good goal at that. So, Joe, let's start with a goal. How do you think? What do you think the goal was like? Sum it up.
Good for him. Good for him indeed. Frustrating that he can stick that in the net, but not some of the 2-yarders that don't go in the net. But hey, a goal's a goal. I think we saw glimpses towards the end of 1920, the goal against Reading, and you're thinking, right, okay, here we go. And he's been great this season. I've loved him off the left. I think he offers a bit of physicality. Everything about what he's doing, and I like that Mowbray stuck with him, thrown him in and said, you keep going. And I thought he looked confident, especially for the kind of 10-15 minute period after that goal. He didn't really put a foot wrong. A great finish against a goalkeeper that's clearly competent as well. He couldn't get anywhere near it. At first I thought it was on the half volley, but it wasn't. It was on the volley, bounced right in front of him. The kind of goal that Bradley Dack would have been super proud of. So brilliant stuff.
Definitely. And I just saw a comment from Linz Lewis there, just to say, Linz, this is a family show, so there'll be no tops off tonight, I'm afraid. Certainly not before 11 p.m. So if we go on beyond 11, then maybe you might get lucky, but there's no tops off here. Howard, Ben Brereton, Joe's just touched on that. Again, I think he looks a different player physically this season and really seems to be using his frame and his height and stuff well in those wide areas. How do you think he did tonight, goal aside?
I don't think he did any different to what I've seen of him do since lockdown, to be honest. I think when he gets the ball and when he drives with the ball, he looks brilliant. You can see what Mowbray or the board or whoever would have probably have seen in him, but I just feel he needs to bounce off this goal. I've said after the Reading and even the Bolton goal that he scored, whenever that was, he just never ever kicked on from it. They seem like that long ago because there's a huge gap in between them, and he just never kicked on from that gap. So, sorry, someone came in my room, and I've lost my train of thought now.
Was it Ben Brereton?
Yeah. But if he kicks on from this, then you're loving it. But I really hope he does. I mean, I think we all do. I'd love nothing more for all the Rovers fans that were so quick to go on his back because they expected us to sign a 19-year-old Jordan Rhodes who'd instantly come in and get 20 goals for us and send us straight back into the Premier League in the first season. I think it was unrealistic for people to think that. He obviously needs time. He's 21 years old. I think the price tag has always weighed him down. I've always been under the impression that if he was a Rovers youth player, I don't think he'd get half the criticism he gets whatsoever. And I've always felt sorry for him in that regard because I feel like that's always just held him back to what we think of him. We always expect too much from what we'd probably get. But I mean, it's a big couple of months for him, because if he did, personally, I think if he doesn't kick on this season and get, let's say, 7-8 goals, maybe. I mean, it depends how many minutes he plays. Then I don't see a future of him starting at this club, unfortunately. Same with Sam Gallagher as well.
So there's a lot of love for Ben Brereton in the comments. So Hunter's Army, hashtag back the Brio, deserved that for his season so far. And also Hunter's Army, Brereton has transformed from Chris Brown into an actual all right footballer. And Warren Selby. Warren Selby, Big Ben, workhorse, a lot of his stuff comes unnoticed. And El Scotty, I've always said I can see potential in Brio. His ability to win free kicks is brilliant too. Alex, what have you seen from Brereton this season? And just on that free kick thing, actually, you see it with a player like Jack Grealish at Villa. I mean, he's always bloody winning free kicks, isn't he? Is that something that Rovers could use to their advantage, actually, if we learn how to play that?
I feel like Craig Conway's been put on one of those like Victorian instruments, like stretches you out and makes you like 6'6". One of those like torture things. Because I do think he can be a bit theatrical at times for someone who is as tall as he is and as physical as he is. At times, he doesn't half go down like a sack of potatoes. But as we've seen, he did win a lot of fouls tonight. I think again the pattern of the game, as Joe mentioned earlier, something like 20 odd fouls and only 2 yellow cards. So there was a lot of that kind of thing going on with Watford trying to stop us playing. But I think that's something he's always been fairly good at, if I'm being honest, Brereton. He's always looked to try and manipulate his body and win a free kick. It's not always come off. But I think I would echo what Howard said about ever since, really, from after the lockdown, I noticed a big change in his physical, just the way he carried himself on the pitch. He just looked like he was using his body a lot more, like he'd filled out into his shoulders a bit, and he was using his body and his height and his strength. And I think if he continues to do that, then he can definitely be a useful player for us. And as Howard said as well, his previous 2 goals were in effectively dead rubber games at the end of the previous 2 seasons, at home to Bolton, who were practically already relegated, and then the penultimate game of last season as well at home to Reading. So I think it's definitely encouraging. I was really impressed with his finish. And we've heard a lot from Mowbray about how he can do that in training, but it's obviously replicating that week in, week out on the pitch. And I think looking at the injuries and looking at Dak coming back, Elliott's in there now as well. So if he wants to stay in that starting 11 week in, week out, then he needs to start producing those goals and assists. Otherwise, he's not going to get in the team. Yeah.
Well, lots of love for Brio on the comments there, and I think it's been a good start. I think we're all agreed he's probably going to be a wide striker for Mowbray now, isn't it? I think he's not going to be our centre forward, or can you see him going there, Joe? Maybe with your tactical hat on. What do you think?
I don't know. I think as he gets older, he'll go central. He won't play wide for his whole career, I don't think. I think he's still got some more filling out to do. On top of what we've already seen. Just quickly, though, on the goal, he's received a bit of criticism today and in recent weeks, Adam Armstrong, but he channeled his inner Danny Graham for the layoff for that goal. His physicality, what is he, 5'6", 5'7"?
Yeah.
He shouldn't win the battles that he wins. And that layoff for Brereton's goal, if he doesn't lay that off, we don't get one back. So I just wanted to touch on that because he's received quite a bit of criticism there, but it was a good assist.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to you in a minute, actually, Joe. I'm just looking at the possession stats here. So Rovers, 66% possession, and a comment that just flashed up there about the number of midfielders that we've got at the club now. Clearly, Mowbray's managed to transform our play a little bit, and Watford sat back off us quite visibly tonight. Do you take encouragement from how Rovers now can manipulate the ball, keep the ball, create these chances? Is that reason to be optimistic, Joe, from what you've seen?
No, not to be too pessimistic But no, whenever I see us have more than 60% possession, I worry. Whenever we control a game in that way, it's never good. Teams sit back against us because we can't break them down. Amari Bell doesn't have the pass. Nyambe doesn't have the final ball. I mean, when Holtby wasn't there either, on Saturday, we literally, it was just like, I think we knew we were going to draw or lose that game from 20 minutes in. So no, I don't take positives from us having a lot of possession. We never seem to do very well. I did a graph at the end of last season, which kind of showed you the mean averages. You can check that out on the Rovers Analytics page. I'll plug myself there. Which kind of shows the averages, and our average points per game is significantly higher when we have closer to 40% possession than when we have closer to 60% possession. And teams like Watford and Nottingham Forest and Cardiff, you could say, oh, what a great testament that they'll sit back against us, but testament isn't points. And managers praising us pre and post match means absolutely nothing. We've got to start being more ruthless. Teams that go up play to the team that they're playing. They win 1-0. They scrape wins. They scrape draws away from home. Brentford didn't go up last year because they play their way no matter what, no matter who they're facing, they play the Brentford way. And that's why they didn't get promoted. And it's why we won't get into the top 6, because we are playing a style and not adapting that to who we're playing. Ismail Assar today on the wing. Ryan Nyambe should not be the furthest forward player on the field. He should be back marking. Just, simple tactical things. We've got to adapt to who we're playing, basically.
Yeah. Alex, is that a view you share? How are you feeling based on what you've seen so far this season?
I would echo what Joe's just said. I think the Wickham game kind of made people excited about the amount of possession we had and how we basically ran right over the top of them. But the reality is they've lost every match they've played this year. And we have to view that result in context. And the only other win we had was a 4-0 win at Derby. And I think we had less than 40% of the ball.
Yeah.
So in every other game, I think Bournemouth, it was almost 50-50. But other than that, I think we've had significantly more possession than the opposition, and you only have to look at the results. Even when I look back to the League One season, when under Mowbray we were quite successful, we were never really a team that had crazy amounts of the ball. Considering the level of play we had compared to the rest of the league. I always think Rovers are a much better team, as Joe said, when we give other teams the ball and give them the onus to attack on us and we counter-attack. Because ultimately, as Joe said, the comments about from managers before the game, it's just all semantics. Teams set up when they come to Ewood in the best way they think they can get 3 points. They're not bothered about whether, how much possession we have. All they're bothered about is winning, getting those 3 points or getting a point and going home. Because in the Championship, draw away from home is always a good result. So, again, the big conundrum that Mowbray has going forward is playing the way we seem to be setting up to play. How do we break these teams down? And I don't think he's found that formula yet, if I'm being honest with you. And I do speak to fans after the game and I say, well, it's another loss and it's quite concerning. And then fans will reply to me back saying, well, it's still it's a work in progress. And I do understand that. But at what point do you say, we are so many points from the playoffs now? At what point do you say, right, this is the cutoff? Is it at Christmas when we've played half the season? Is it at the next international break? When is that? When do we turn around and say, right, we have to adapt our style of play to the opposition we're playing? We're not Barcelona. We can't just, we didn't lose 8-0 or 8-2 or whatever, but you can't just go into every game and, be arrogant and play our way and expect to win every week. It just doesn't work like that in the Championship.
Yeah. And I think with what both of you have said there, the thing I've always found quite surprising, Tony Mowbray by trade was a good centre half and part of, a couple of good sides that were defensively amazing. And I do find it incredible that it doesn't seem to go that way forward for Rovers. He seems more about his attacking and formation and possession and all of that side of stuff. So I have always found that quite surprising. Just looking at the time, we'll probably end the stream in about 5 minutes. So if you've got any other comments, do hit them in the comment box there and ask us anything Rovers related, of course. Any question that we've not covered, any point from tonight's game, do drop it in there and we'll just run through some of them quickly. But before we just take some more comments, Howard, when these comments come up, there is a comment here from Hunter's Army again. Holtby looking transformed this season in his new deeper role rather than in the 10 behind the striker. Was exceptional for 83 minutes, then went doggy. What have you made of Lewis Holtby in his new role this season?
I've been very impressed. I'm a bit relieved, to be honest, that he's fitted into this team, because I had worries after last season that because of the system that we played, that he didn't really have a position in the team where we could get the best out of him. A bit like players like Casey Palmer and Jack Payne a little bit, where they were number 10s, but they didn't play in the position. Holtby isn't a number 10. He doesn't have the goals to his game to be similar to that Dak. So he kind of plays like, is the 8? Is that the right role? I think something like that, isn't it? He kind of plays that playmaker type role, and it suits him perfectly. I think he's the focal point of that midfield three. He's the one that I think is untouchable in it. He has to start every game he possibly can. Who I'd have around him is I mean, you could go with about 8 or 9 different options, really, couldn't you? I mean, especially if someone like Stuart Downing came in, that he would maybe offer good backup to Holtby in a way, or maybe it'd be good to decide. I'm not sure, but yeah, that question on there is a very good one. I mean, it's one that I'd struggle to answer. Put it that way. Yeah.
Well, you've taken me nicely into another question, which I'm going to throw at Joe, because he's got the benefit of all his analytics. So again, it's from Hunter's Army. The main question is, where does Dak play when he returns? Is he the main striker with an Armour and an Elliott / Brereton / Dolan, or is he in the midfield 3? And Howard's just said there about Holtby, who would you play alongside him? So, Joe, where are you putting him? What formation?
Well, there's 2 ways to answer that question. If we have to play a 4-3-3, if that's what we're going with and it doesn't change, I think you want him up there, don't you? You want him further up front. I think he's wasted in midfield. I don't think he offers anything more than Holtby in a creative, deep role. And you can't have 2 of those back there, otherwise you haven't really got enough defensive shape. So he has to go further up front. Where across that front 3, I really don't know. But the real answer to that question is, you can't play 4-3-3. The 4-3-3 isn't working defensively. The fullbacks are too high. It doesn't work when certain midfielders are out, i.e. Holtby or Rothwell, because it's too static. And it doesn't suit Dak, who is, without a doubt, our best player. And it often gets forgotten just how good Bradley Dak is. Is. He still exists. He's not dead. He is our best player. Because people forget just how incredible that man is. So, it has to change. It doesn't have to be 4-2-3-1, but I think it will change. I think we'll get to that November international break, and then we'll be looking at a Dak return, and I think it'll have to change. Whether that's something new, whether it's a 4-3-3 that's slightly different with a double pivot and Dak in the hole, where a kind of 2 more defensive midfielders, like a Johnson and a Tribal, sit in front of the defence, and Dak kind of plays off Armstrong or off Gallagher or whatever. But I can't see Dak coming back into this team and not playing in the Dak role. We've got to find a formation that's got a Dak position, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think we've got a comment there from Ishmael Lunat, who agrees with that. 2 comments: Dak in behind, striker advanced, and 4-2-3-1 behind Armour. So, there's some agreement there, Joe, with what you've said. And then backed up a bit further as well by Hunter's Army. Don't know that the 4-3-3 isn't working defensively, kept 3 clean sheets this season. So, there's a bit of debate there, isn't there? So, next comment, Ben Smith, full squad. How good are we, guys? What's the expectation? Alex, think of those signings that we've made, and, players like Douglas, who are hopefully going to shore up a problem area for us. Where do you think we can finish? What's the expectation?
Well, before a ball was kicked and before we'd made the most recent signings on deadline day, I said around where we finished last season, based on, we hadn't really lost any players that were super important, but equally, we hadn't really improved a great deal. I think the signings we have made are definitely encouraging, and the signs that we've seen tonight are that they will definitely improve what we've already got, which is always good. It's whether we can get them all on the pitch at the same time. As we've alluded to, we've got an awful lot of options in midfield in particular, and you can't play them all at the same time. But if Douglas does get in that team instead of Bell and does stay fit and does provide that, that kind of assist level that we've seen previously at Wolves and when they got promoted from the Championship, then I certainly think this squad should be in the hunt for the top 6 at the end of the season. And I think if it isn't, then questions do have to be asked about, has the manager got the best out of the group of players that we've got? We've improved every season, to be fair to Mowbray. That first season back, consolidation, you finish that 15th to 16th isn't too bad. And then we jump up again to about 10th, 11th. And then you're expecting a similar sort of jump again into that 5th, 6th kind of area. So if everyone stays fit, then I think that has to be the expectation. But unfortunately, the results we've had so far, we've beaten the 2 whipping boys, it looks like, in Derby and Wickham, and we've not really got much from anybody else. So we certainly need to see a lot more yet if we want to get in there.
Yeah. And Warren Selby, I think, agrees with your sentiments there. Alex, Warren said top 6 and has to be, else we lose players next season. And I think certainly on that latter point, that's something I share. Players like Dak, Armstrong, Lenihan, they're going to be in the shop window, aren't they? So there is an element of urgency to this, especially if Bradley Dak comes back and hits that ground running. And then he's going to be, on many wish lists, I'm sure. So we're going to end this stream in a moment, but we'll just do one little look towards the Coventry game. Ben Smith has made a comment, how big a game is the Coventry game now? Howard, with what Alex has just said there about some of the results and who we've beaten, is it a bit of a must-win on Saturday now?
Not for me, no. It's a game that I think we should be winning if we want to get into the top 6, if that's... but I wouldn't say it's a must-win. I think it's too early for must-wins. I think our points tally, the way we are in the league, is a little bit misleading. But I also think the Wickham and Derby games were a little bit misleading, where they led us to believe that we were a little bit better than we were. But now that the signings have come in, we've kind of gone a bit backwards. It's kind of odd. It's not really balanced out right. I believe we are a top 6 team this season. I think we have to be, and we have to. I suppose when you put it like that, we kind of have to beat Coventry in that sense, because they're newly promoted. They're probably going to finish about, I don't know, maybe mid-end 16th, 17th, 18th, around that, because they're not a bad team, not the greatest. And I think if we have aspirations of doing what we need to do this season, we have to win. But I also won't say it's a must-win game. I won't argue it's doom and gloom if we lose, which I'm sure a lot of people would. But yeah, I think we need to win, but it's not must win. It makes sense in my head, but it doesn't make sense when I say it like that, if you know what I mean. It's kind of a bit of a weird one to put into words. But I also think that I look at the Rovers teams in the last 2 seasons and we lose games like Coventry. We did it in our first season when we got promoted, and we did it last season. We lost to the teams around that are realistically not going to be up at the upper end of the table and are going to be about lower end, bottom half. We have to get rid of that kind of, I won't say it's a rut that we're in, but it's kind of like an inconsistency that we have, where we kind of play better against, say, I think back to our first season, the games against Leeds, and then you've got the games like Rotherham, where we were, that was terrible. And like last season, you had the games against Luton, Barnsley, Birmingham away, which was the worst I've seen us playing absolutely ages. And I feel like if we want to challenge, we have to just get out of that mindset almost and just go for the kill with these teams if we want to get into the top 6. Yeah.
We've got quite a few comments actually, just racking up the importance of this game. So Matt Hornby, must win definitely. Hunter's Army, not a season-defining game, but would be good to win before the tough game versus Reading next week. Warren Selby, can't go 3 losses on the spin. Ishmael Lunat, we will bounce back. Mowbray and the boys will shift a gear this weekend, going for a 2-0 win with clean sheet. And then Ben Smith feels like we're very close to clicking. So, Joe, the Coventry game, what level of importance have you got on that? And what's your prediction for it?
I think we'll probably win it. But again, let's not get carried away. We beat Wickham, we beat Derby, we'll probably beat Coventry. But it's Coventry. They've just been promoted. And we can't get carried away with it. At the end of the day, all the evidence for another season points to that we're a mid-table side. You beat some teams, you lose to other teams, you look great one week, you look rubbish the next. And that's the way it is, really. And luckily, we haven't spent 5 million on a Brereton or 7 million on a Sam Gallagher or whatever the figures were this year. I think we've spent, under $1 million, and we've got all these players in. So, it is what it is. On paper, we should do well, but I think it's only a must-win game if you're naive enough to think that we're going to finish in the top 6 based off how we're playing at the minute. That comes back and Douglas comes in and things are looking better and we find a formation that works, then we could talk about it. But right now, just take it game by game. Let's go beat Coventry. We're a better side than them.
Yeah. And Alex, I'm going to give you the final word on the Coventry game. El Scotty 2706 can't take 1 point out of 12. So where are you on the Coventry game and how you're thinking that's going to go?
I'm in agreement with Joe as that I think we will win the game. I think it's quite rare under Mowbray that we go on 3 losses on the spin. It maybe happened once in his reign. It doesn't happen an awful lot. So I can see us turning it around on Saturday. But again, it's displaying that inconsistency of, win, loss, draw, win, loss. It's that combination of for every win we have, we always have to lose a game. And if you follow that formula over a season, you will be banging mid-table, as Joe said. If you want to get in that top 6, you need to put winning runs together and you need to put unbeaten runs together where the majority of those games are wins. So looking ahead to Coventry, I think it's an important game. I think it's going to be important for the morale. As the comment just said, 1 point out of 12 doesn't look very good, does it? When we've meant to be started, we're playing this amazing football apparently, and out of 12 doesn't exactly tally with that. So, Mob needs to start getting results. Otherwise, you can have as much possession as you want, but what really matters and what keeps managers in jobs is wins.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to end the stream there. What I will do, though, is give a prize out to Hunter's Army, who you've been keeping us very entertained on the comments section tonight. And your comment of this live stream is nearly as good as Holtby's hair is excellent. So thank you all, not just Hunter's Army. There's been a few others of you that have given us some nice comments. We have done this for the first time. I hope it went well. Give us some feedback. Let us know if you want another one. And do, of course, give the Rovers Chat Twitter page a follow, Rovers_chat, if you're not following that. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay up to date with all of our content. Joe's stuff, my stuff, Andy's stuff, the 1875 podcast. We've got loads of things coming out this season. So the best way to stay up to date is to subscribe. So before we go, I'll say bye to everyone. So Howard, how did your debut go? How did you find it?
Yeah, I've enjoyed myself, to be fair. Yeah, very good. I'd love to do it again, yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Alex, I do commend you on your positivity. Well done, mate. Have you enjoyed it as well?
I've enjoyed it as a first live stream. I think I'm most grateful for not swearing live in front of an audience. So I think I'll take that as my biggest achievement.
Excellent. Well, you've heard it here first, Rovers fans. If we lose to Coventry on Saturday, then Alex will be on a live stream swearing to you all. So, if you want us to lose, then Alex will be on here. And Joe, thank you for joining us as well, mate. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. And yeah, Rovers fans, we will end it there. Thank you for all the comments, all the support, and we will be back next time with another one. So see you soon. Boom.